What's going on, everyone? Russell Westbrook and the Los Angeles Lakers really didn't work out last season. It was an absolute mess, and many believe it was the worst season of the Lakers in the history of the franchise, given the talent that they had, the names on the roster, and them not even making the playoffs. Although I think injuries were a big part of them not making the playoffs, I don't believe that they would have made a deep run or anything along those lines. But it wasn't just Westbrook that was the problem. He was part of the problem, but it was a collective of the entire organization that was the problem. And even Frank Vogel never really put Westbrook in proper position to succeed. I mean, the whole point of getting Russell Westbrook was to alleviate LeBron. That was the whole point. So LeBron could play off the ball when Westbrook is on the court, and then when LeBron is out, Westbrook can kind of run the show. But we never saw that. You saw Westbrook and LeBron on the court together more than without it, and it just kind of went contradicting. And then LeBron was the one that was handling the ball most of the time, and he was as turnover prone as Westbrook last year. It was just a mess across the board. And look, Westbrook, I still believe, has a lot left in the tank. I still believe he is that dude. People forget, because of recency bias, that he was a 22-11-11 guy with the Washington Wizards, and him and Bradley Beal single-handedly took a bunch of random players to the playoffs. Now, they lost in the first round, but he still was able to take just basically him and Bradley Beal to the playoffs. And I do think it's a matter of when, not if, Russell Westbrook gets traded. But in reality, and it's something we have to realize, Russell Westbrook could be on this roster for this season. And the Lakers aren't going to make a trade that's going to hinder their future just to move off of Russ. They will try to make it work. And we see Darvin Ham operating as if Russ is going to be on this roster and all of those things. So that is something that we have to keep in mind. So can Russell Westbrook, if he's on the roster this season, can he turn it around? Again, I really believe he's going to get traded. I think the Lakers want to trade him. I think he wants to be traded. He even got a new agent, Jeff Schwartz, that is known for getting max dollar and buyouts. And Russ knows any place he goes to, they're just going to buy him out. That's why he got that agent. So I think all sides are kind of like, we need to get a trade done. But the Lakers aren't going to risk, future flexibility, things like that, just to trade Russ. And so Russ, if he's in, I do believe Darvin Ham is going to be able to take him to another level. Not saying he's going to be the MVP star level player, but Russ is going to have to make changes and adjustments in general. He's going to have to show he can fit in. Otherwise, he could be an Allen Iverson situation where Allen Iverson still had a lot in the tank. He was still a great player, but he refused to buy in. He refused to come off the bench, things like that. Even Carmelo, we saw the same thing with Melo, right? And it wasn't until he embraced that, okay, fine. I want to be in the league. I want to play in this league. And it literally took Melo being completely out of the league and no one wanting to touch him for him to realize that. And hopefully the same thing doesn't happen to Russell Westbrook. Hopefully he learned from the ones before him to show, I need to adjust. I need to change. And we've seen Russ is working on his shot. I don't think he's ever going to be, a lights out shooter or anything, but if he can be at least respectable, at least to where teams actually have to put a hand up and close out on him, that would be beautiful. The corner three, the Lakers have even said they want to sort of get him more at a higher percentage from those corner threes. I believe the left side or the weak side is the one that he was 60% from or 55% from. So that's a good sign. The other corner, he shot I think 38%, something like that. So the corner threes seem to be a good spot for Russ when it comes to three-point percentage. It's also closer to the basket than say the top of the key. So that also helps too. Russ has been able to knock down the mid-range here and there and a little outside. It's just for whatever reason, as soon as he gets behind that line, it's just brick city for him. And hopefully with a slightly improved shot. I'm not saying he has to go to 40%, but if he could just get from 28 to 32%, which is still below league average, but it's respectable enough to where teams actually have to close out on him. If he's hitting at a respectable rate, teams have to close out. And so hopefully Russ can get to that level. I also think Darvin Ham is going to put him in position because he's going to implement the 4-out, 1-in offense. So Russ will be able to get the ball and get with a head of steam to the basket. Hopefully he can actually finish this time this year. But if he can get that head of steam, you got the floor spacing, and then you can get to the hoop. Also, you can kind of put him in the dunker spot or run that lethal pick and roll between Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and Russell Westbrook that had an 80% score rate or something ridiculous like that. Frank Vogel did it one time in a game, and then he just didn't do it for like 6 months. Like, it was insane to me. Like, it was a proven, like, easy bucket. Because you had Russ, LeBron, or Russ and AD, you were able to just run that pick and roll, and it was lethal. So why would you get off of that? I think Darvin Ham is going to have him implement that more. He's also talked about how he wants Russ to focus some of his energy on the defensive end, and just, ramping up that level. They need to improve their defense. Now, Russ is never going to be a lockdown defender, but I do think within a proper team scheme, he can be a serviceable defender, and that's what you need. You need him to be able to just stay in front of his guy, funnel the guy to the bigs, stuff like that. You don't need to have him, trying to be Kawhi Leonard out there. You just need him to be not a liability when he's out on the court. I also think Darvin Ham will use Russ as like a sixth man, or, he'll start just because of his ego and stuff, and they don't want that headache, but he will operate him as Frank Vogel should have done. Again, the whole point of getting Russell Westbrook was to take the pressure off of LeBron James and Anthony Davis. How many times did we hear last season, we just want Russ to be Russ. We just want Russ to be Russ. Yet you never allowed Russ to be Russ. Like, how many times does Russ play on the court with Rondo and LeBron for extended periods of time? Or LeBron and THT for extended periods of time? Like, that's not making and allowing Russ to be Russ. That's Russ. You need to put, who are your 4 best shooters, and Thomas Bryant or Anthony Davis to space the floor, and you just let Russ go. And I think what is very likely to happen is, I think, they will start, these 3 will start together. Russ will stay in the game. He'll probably play almost the entire first quarter, if not the first quarter. LeBron will probably get taken out at like the 5-minute mark, maybe even Anthony Davis, and then it'll just be the Russell Westbrook show. Russ sits down to start the second. He sits out, for 5 to 7 minutes. Then he goes in and subs out LeBron. That's how I would do it, at least. When LeBron's on the court, Russ is not. And then when LeBron needs to get checked out, Russ gets checked in. And then, you got to start the first 5 minutes just because, the starters, and that way he feels like he's a starter. Okay, fine. And then if Russ is balling, let's say Russ is knocking down his threes that game, he is getting to the basket, he is having a great game, then let him close out the game. Then in that point, the last 5 minutes or the last 3 minutes or whatever, let Russ and LeBron close that game out together. But if Russ is having a bad game or he's struggling or whatever, take Russ out. Hey, dude, you just don't got it today. It's okay. Don't worry. We'll get back to, the next game. Let these guys, close it out and then see what happens. I just think that would be the best implement and the best approach to get these 3 to work and these 3 to figure it out. I do think Russ can turn it around with the Lakers. Even Miami, and they were a much better fit. They weren't able to win a championship the first year. Granted, they made it to the finals, but still, we've seen lots of teams take time to kind of mesh. Frank Vogel didn't do these guys any favors with just the lineups and, adjustments and stuff like that. We also really lacked size last year, which we upgraded. All obviously youth. We needed some youth, which we went to. I do think this team, outside of shooting, is good enough to be up there. The problem is, at least based on the stats from last season, none of these guys can really shoot. LeBron is your best 3-point shooter, and Kendrick Nunn. But even then, it's like those 2, unless you can get the other guys to elevate that 3-point shooting, the Lakers might have some struggles, to say the least, still. But if you can get Russ to just be serviceable, last year he was 18-7-7, and on paper he looked like he was a star for the Lakers. But if you saw the games, you'd realize he wasn't. He was very inefficient. It wasn't a good matchup for him. But if you could get him to get like those numbers, or even let's say 15-5-5 on an efficient, productive type of run with him, then that is perfect. That is all you need. And then hopefully LeBron and Anthony Davis are healthy going into the playoffs. If you got Westbrook bought in, and Westbrook is able to put up what he put up last year, but in an efficient manner, then I wouldn't want to play. The Lakers would be scary at that point. Because if you have Russ and LeBron and Anthony Davis able to figure it out, Darvin Ham is able to get them bought in, get them kind of working together, getting it to be kind of this well-oiled machine, I think it could work. The problem is when you have these three on the court, I mean, especially last season, none of these three were really great from three. I mean, LeBron improved his three-point percentage tremendously. He was like 36% last year, but that's still like league average, And so the problem is that you don't have any like lights out shooters amongst these three. Anthony Davis, if he can kind of get back to bubble Anthony Davis, then that would help tremendously. But him shooting 18% from three, Westbrook shooting like 28% from three, and LeBron shooting 36%, it's hard to make that work when all three of these guys are on the court. If Anthony Davis can get back to being that 36+% three-point shooter, and LeBron can maintain that 36%, maybe even raise it a little bit, get to like 37, 38%, then yes, I think that this could work, because then you could use your other two big of the big three to spread the floor, space it out, and then Westbrook can go to work more. I do think it can work. I just think it's not going to work to the sense of like, the Warriors with Draymond, Clay, and Steph. It's not going to be like that kind of big three, but I do think you can get Westbrook serviceable. I think you can get Westbrook to kind of turn it around with the Lakers if need be. Again, let me express, because I know people are going to say in the comments, even though I said it earlier, I do believe Russell Westbrook gets traded. I do believe Russell Westbrook is gone. But there is a reality where he stays, because right now he's still on the roster. And unless a trade happens, he's going to remain on the roster. And if that's the case, the big question is, can he actually become an effective player with this Lakers team? And I really do. I really think Russ can be effective with this Lakers team if Darvin Ham implements the right system, puts Russ in the right positions, doesn't just relegate him to a corner three shooter. I am all for, trying to put him in those 3-point positions to be able to, where is he best from three? Okay, this corner. Let's, when we're running the 4 out, 1 in offense, and he's one of the out, have him be in that corner. He's that corner three guy. That I understand. But if like 10 straight plays, he's that corner three guy, you're not putting Russ in a position to succeed. And that was what Vogel did. We saw ample extended periods of time where Russ was just kind of standing there. He wasn't doing anything. Like there was no plays, no screens, no moving without the ball, none of that. And it's like, where's the offensive implementation? Like, where is that at? And I hope Darvin Ham can do that. I do believe he will do that. He is an X's and O's guy. He is a guy that comes from a great line of coaching and learning from some of the best in the league. I do think he's going to be able to implement and put Russ in a proper perspective. And he spoke very highly on Russ. And Russ has, by all accounts, shown that he's willing to buy into this and all of that. And that's great. I am all for that. But we need to see Russ have some effectiveness. Again, I don't need him to be a 30, 10 and 10 guy. You don't have to be a triple-double guy. I just need you to go out there, and if you could get me 15 to 18, like I said, if he could get the same stat line he had last year of 18, 7, and 7, but efficiently, I mean, that's a home run. Seriously, that is a home run. That is a scary big three, because you have LeBron who could get you 30, 10 and 10, night in and night out. You got Russ who can get you 18 to 20 and 7 and 7, night in and night out. And Anthony Davis who can get you 30. And if they're gelling and they can make it work, that is perfect. And you got the young guys and everything. I'm telling you, the Lakers will be in a good position. Will they be a contender? I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised if they are on a deep playoff run. I mean, look, the Dallas Mavericks were in the Western Conference Finals last year. I love Dallas. I love Luka. I think they have a great team. I think they definitely upgraded this year. But last year, I mean, nobody thought that Luka was leading them to the Western Conference Finals. And guess what? He was there. You get a couple things to fall your way. If this gels, like I said, if you get a third guy that consistently gives you 18, 7, and 7, night in and night out, you're in a pretty good spot. The Lakers will be very well off. But that's my opinion. As always, I pass the question on to you. Let me know yours down in the comment section below. Do you think Russ can kind of turn it around with the Lakers if he was to stay with the Lakers? Do you think that Russell Westbrook will buy in, kind of give it a run? Because he's going to have to buy in at some point. Whether it's this team or another, at some point, he's either going to be the next Allen Iverson and Carmelo Anthony, or he's going to be a guy that makes the adjustment, changes it up. I do think if he would buy into being the sixth man, I think he would have quite a long career ahead of him. Just because of his explosiveness, what he's able to do. Him as the bench guy coming off the bench, good luck. But I think you can still run him as if he was the sixth man. So, the minutes that the sixth man would play, that's where you play him. You usually don't have your best player on the court when the sixth man's in there. That's the time for him to get rest. You run Russ as that. I think if he can be that 18-7-7 guy, I think it can work. And I really believe if you tell Russ, dude, look, LeBron's coming out at the 5-minute mark. You have 5 minutes between now and the end of the quarter, and that's going to happen every quarter between now and the third quarter and the end of the third quarter, and then we'll see what happens in the fourth quarter. If you get me 20 points between now, by the time LeBron subs out, and all of the times you're on the court without LeBron, you give me 20 points, you can play at the end of the game. I guarantee you Russ is going to go out there and ball because he's not going to want to sit on the bench at the end of the game. He's going to show, okay, I'm that dude. Like, watch. If you just give Russ the keys to the kingdom and let him run rampant, I believe he could get it done. But you need to put the right guys around him. You need to put him in a position to succeed. And I hope Darvin Ham does that. I do believe he will. I like what he's talked about. I like the 4-out, 1-in offense. So I'm really looking forward to that. But again, however you feel about it, love to hear your thoughts and opinions down. That being said, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification. Stay up to date with all things sports. Join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.